Well, good day, viewers. Today we're working on this 2014 Chevy Silverado 1500 5.3 GDI, and it has a high pressure pump leaking fuel into the crankcase. And what that does is it fills the crankcase with gasoline, or loads the crankcase up with gasoline, and the PCV system pulls the fumes off, and it sets a P0172, P0175 for running rich on both banks. I diagnosed this in a previous video. I'll put a link in the description. And today we're going to change the high pressure pump and the necessary gasket. So that entails removing the air induction system, the intake manifold, disconnecting the low pressure fuel system. And I'm not too worried about it depressurizing, but you have to be concerned about the pressure in the high pressure system, which could be 500 to 700 psi right now. Or even higher after a hot soak. Let's look at the parts. So there's the GM part number. Interesting, it's got Chinese writing all over it, or maybe Japanese, I'm not sure. You need the pump right there. You need the high pressure line that leaves the pump to the rail. That's the part number of the line, and you need 8 intake gaskets. 8 of these gaskets. The pump comes with a new gasket on the bottom and new hold down bolts. Everything else should be reusable. So let's get started. I'll remove the air induction by depressing these clips on here on the PCV or fresh air lines and pull the hose off. We're going to put dielectric grease on there. 2 elbows on each valve cover, and then a hose clamp here and a hose clamp on the MAF sensor. Yeah, we're going to disconnect the battery too, just to be safe. So I find if you remove the one bolt that holds the purge solenoid onto the manifold, it's easier to get at this clip, because this clip faces down and back, and I couldn't get it out. So I'll leave it connected to the wiring harness. Now the hose is like the PCV fresh air, just press in on this. Press in on this release tab and slide it off, put it off to the side. Now this plastic cover remains on here. You can't take it off in the car, or in the truck I should say. Disconnect the throttle body and the alternator and pry all the little push pins out of the plastic cover. I don't think we need to undo the wiring harness off the injectors. I'm going to try and leave it on there, but we'll see. So there are 5 10 mil headed bolts on each side of the manifold. The right rear corner is the most challenging. You need about a 3-inch extension in a semi-deep socket, and air ratchet or an electric ratchet is easiest. Well, I did one of these before, and the intake manifold had been off before, so somebody else had broken all of the plastic clips on the rear of the harness there. There is some challenging clips on the back of the harness, on the back of the intake manifold. I've got the left rear corner one out and the right rear corner one out, but the middle one can hardly get in there. I got this topside creeper here because I got to lay up on top there to reach back there with 2 arms. So that wiring harness runs down here like this and across here. There's a push pin here in the harness. Then there's a plastic bracket with 3 push pins, and you can't reach back there. You can't get in there with anything. You got to pull it forward slightly. Boy, oh boy. Like I said, I had one of these apart before, but somebody had already had the intake off and obviously broke those plastic clips, those retainers. Wow, what a pain in the ass. Well, you've got to take that sound deadener out. And do yourself a favor, set the sound deadener on top of the intake manifold so you don't forget to put it back in there. Ask me how I know this. Now I gotta get it out of the way. And stuff some paper towel in the intake ports. So there's the sound deadener out of the way. You gotta take off that high pressure line between the pump and the T joint there. Be cautious of the fact that there could be high pressure fuel in that line. There is a procedure in the scan tool to dump the high pressure fuel prior to taking this apart, but I just put a rag over the fitting. It's not a large volume of fuel, it's just could be relatively high pressure. And then we got to take the low pressure line off with the coupler, disconnect the pressure regulator, move the wiring harness. Yeah, let's get going. So I managed to get the low pressure line disconnected by loosening off the pump, putting a fuel line release tool in. The line is flexible a little bit so you can get it off. So that's the high pressure pump. There's gas leaking out of it right now. Well, let's put the new one in. So I noticed the pump was under pressure. It's up about 3/8 of an inch. So it must be on one of the cam lobes. So I'm going to turn the engine over with the 15/16 socket until the pump sits down flush or as close to flush on the block, so I'm not trying to push it down with the ears. So I'm going to turn the engine with the power bar here. No, it's coming back up again. Well, I gotta put it on the base circle anyways. There it goes back down now. Yeah, that's as far as it goes. Okay. Well, we'll tighten the bolts down gradually on both sides. So I'm looking up the pump torque and I see that they have a tool, a special tool. Camshaft must be at the base circle position before the high pressure pump is installed. Well, what I did was basically the same thing. I turned the engine until the pump went to its lowest possible position to ensure the cam lobe is at the base circle. The base circle position will be flush with the top surface of the lifter oil manifold system. And install the new high pressure fuel pump gasket. Yes, it comes with it. 18 foot-pounds. Start and hand tighten the new high pressure fuel pump bolts and evenly tighten the high pressure fuel pump bolts to 25 whatever 18 foot-pounds. So we're going to torque them. So I was just curious about that high pressure line. It does say install a new high pressure line, not to reuse it. Start and hand tighten a new line and tighten the fuel pump feed pipe, high pressure fuel feed pipe fittings to 22 foot-pounds in the following order: at the fuel pump first and then at the crossover. But you'd have to use a crowfoot on that, and you'd have to multiply the width of the crowfoot, the length of the crowfoot, because of torque multiplication. 22 foot-pounds. They must have a special crowfoot tool for that. So there's the intake manifold ready to go on, and the intake port's all clean. Now I cut the middle pin on that, those 4 pins. One was broken off, so I got one on the left side upper and one on the right side upper, but the 2 other ones are missing. I'm sure that the harness is not going to vibrate and fall off back there. Now we'll drop this manifold back on. So you can see we had a P0175 and a 172 in record. So I'm going to do a network code clear. I've changed the oil and filter and greased it, and topped up the fluid levels, checked the front and rear diff and transfer case. Still have to check the transmission fluid, but I'm going to wait till it's running. $215,000 kilometers. Got to reset the oil life. So I'm going to clear all codes read by code scan, because there's a bunch of codes due to loss of communication with door modules and such. So I'm just going to clear everything, then we're going to start it and have a look at fuel trims and compare it to the previous measurement. I'm curious if the low pressure fuel system retains fuel pressure now, because in about 5 minutes it dropped to 0 before. Okay, go into engine, data, and fuel trim data. Short-term and long-term fuel trim. I'm going to start it up. I should really relearn the fuel trims, but I didn't learn. So we're going to let it run for a while. See what the fuel trims do. The fuel trim cell, it's in closed loop already. Wow, that's pretty quick. Like less than 10 seconds. So let it run for a while and watch the fuel trims. So it's been running about 15 minutes. It's coming up to temperature. High pressure fuel pressure is about 700 psi, 696. Low pressure fuel pressure is running between 40 and 50. It's fluctuating, I guess, with the high pressure pump pulses. Now, when I did this before, we're going to shut it off and turn the key back on without losing communication. The high pressure fuel pressure should climb because of the hot soak condition, which it did before, and the low pressure fuel pressure should maintain steady, I think. So I've turned the truck off and we're monitoring high pressure fuel pressure during a hot soak. You can see it's going up. And the low pressure fuel pressure is holding steady now, sitting at 54. Last time, within 5 minutes, I had about 850 pounds of high pressure fuel pressure, but I had 3 pounds of low pressure fuel pressure. So I assumed that the pump was leaking into the crankcase, and that would account for fuel dilution in the engine oil, negative fuel trims because it's getting fuel off the crankcase. So we're going to let this sit for a few minutes and come back in about 5-10 minutes. So it's been about 5 minutes. The high pressure fuel pressure has risen to 1,116. And the low pressure fuel pressure is holding rock steady, and it's actually gone up to 64 psi. So I'll show you a comparison. I'll try and overlay it on this video. So we're going to say that this is fixed until something else goes wrong, like a bent push rod or a collapsed lifter or fuel injector imbalance code or anything else that these engines are prone to. But for now, we're going to call this one fixed. Thanks for watching. As a side note, you can see the fuel trims now are 0 on both banks, whereas before this long-term fuel trim was pegged at minus 15, minus 10. I'm going to reset the oil life monitor while I'm here. There should be an output controls, functional tests, output controls, engine oil life. There it is. See, with this reset, I can actually specify less than 100%. I know you can reset it with the gas pedal. Where's the reset? It's in the wrong data list, but it's in accessory data list. Is it under E for oil or engine, or under O for oil? Oh, it is set for 100%, so I guess once you open that screen it automatically sets it. Would have been faster just to step on the gas pedal 3 times. Oh well, thanks for watching.